I felt more committed really to my next step being myself making an album. And it just, the time hasn't been right. I can foresee a time when I might be a very good producer for someone, but it will mean that I'll have to take care of some of my own, get some of my own business out of the way first. Business. That's not business like restaurant business.
What do you think becomes of like musicians of your own generation? Do you think production is the future for most people, or do you think most guys will be in like their 50s, like 15, 20 years from now, still playing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it comes about most noticeably when someone's asking, the Rolling Stones, are they going to still be doing tours when they're not, when they're 50 years old, which is not so far away.
Yeah, you can see.
But they still got the energy and the excitement, and they're holding the source, and they're holding the main line of what a lot of people want. And I don't know. I think many of the innovators of the 60s and the 70s are still coming up with a lot of what people want to hear. Fortunately, there's plenty of room for everybody, and there's the new musical tangents that exist still are holding pretty much to a main line. I mean, they're still coming off the same source. There are some new musical things happening out there, as there always have been. But a lot of the guys who are important as innovators are still coming up with some nice things.
I think that's one of the best things about your music, is that it's almost timeless, especially from the slow dancer phase on. You pick up slow dancer, it's still just as fresh today as it was back in 74, 75 when it came out.
I think there's a common strength. A lot of what comes and goes and what's popular today and gone tomorrow, or that remains. The musical core remains something that happened in the 50s and to a great extent in the 60s. There's a musical basis. There's a very direct generation of events and of popular music that's gone on. There's a very, very linear pattern to it all. I kind of got lost there for a second because there was a point I wanted to make. A lot of the music, I know what it was. The music has a great deal, or at least what comes out and what gets around a lot, and what's talked about and videotapes made of, are public tastes. I think that now more than ever, there's a broader public awareness, a greater education of the public. So many musical styles are available and have been available. Reggae, jazz, fusion, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, all have a part now in this huge audience. All these styles are being incorporated and intermingled within one another now, so that a kid now, a 5 or 6 year old kid is listening to Quincy Jones influenced stuff through Michael Jackson. This has never happened before. Never has let's take Michael Jackson as a phenomenon. Never has that complicated, a rhythmic form been so widely accepted all over the world. And 10 years ago, I think the closest the general white population could get to, I'm talking about contemporary American styles are English or European or Japanese, which are certainly up on, the styles of the rest of the world. They started getting with it when disco came around. They started digging some more sophisticated rhythms, and reggae certainly twisted them a little bit. Now, people like Prince or some of the reggae things are able to come to the forefront. I mean, we were listening to James Brown and the Meters a long time ago, and there's still nothing in the mainstream that is as complex as that stuff is. But there are more people able to understand that now, which leads to a whole world of possibilities. To listen, to think that, to take like Mick Jagger's current album, there's a lot of real nice, tricky, groovy, melodic and rhythmic things going on there, which would have gone way over everybody's head 10 years ago, or 5 years ago. So it just opens the door for everyone to a lot more possibilities. I think people can be, in some ways, more discerning. They can find things that are, more essentially complex and meaningful musically now than ever before. On the other hand, we have a whole new generation of video image pushers on the scene now that satisfies this same need in people to see and consume and identify themselves and each other through so-called music. I think about the same percentage of music still exists in what's coming out now and what came out 10 years ago or 20 years ago. There's still a relatively small percentage of it which is musically innovative and valid and meaningful and good. What we have gained in terms of musical sophistication, as far as the general audience is concerned, we've lost ground in terms of what the video has brought in. The idea of just projecting, images and pop styles and so forth. Not that I'm not qualifying any of it. I don't mean video in any pejorative sense, but there's still something for everybody. Some people are just looking for the next style, the next image, and the next change of cut of clothes and so forth. And some people are actually able to dig into what I think is much more, meaningful, deeper musical pocket.
The one common thread seems to be a shift towards urban black, recognizing our own roots as Americans as being black for music, whereas for Europeans and for maybe half of Britain it's classical. But in your own case, I think you made a very daring move when you hired Johnny Bristol as your producer for Slow Dancer, and then you kind of coalesced the whole thing into something very sellable with Silk Degrees. And that was even pre-Saturday Night Fever, which was the big turning point when the white America started recognizing, the value of good sex and music, mixed into one, and that's when disco became recognized. That's
when the rhythms. I mean, at that time there was also a parallel in the Black American urban rhythm and blues movement. I mean, there were some. That was the most important innovation of the 70s, the late 60s.
Maybe you could explain a little
more. Well, the music that came out of Detroit, Philadelphia, and Chicago at the time. Curtis Mayfield was doing things out of Chicago. Gamble and Huff were doing things out of Philadelphia. Motown was happening in Detroit. Stax was happening in Memphis, and they were bringing a lot of very sophisticated musical ideas, orchestrations, arrangements that were real new and real exciting. The doors were wide open to a lot of musical experience. They were happening in R&B. People started to tune into. I mean, there started to be a crossover between rhythm and blues and top 40 charts. Excuse me. And then disco hit.